Cautiously walking down a corridor to the deeper parts of the complex, Jack hadn't seen anyone else he knew since he parted ways with Chio. Though he knew in the back of his mind he should try and make the effort to get to know some more people and mingle with the crowd, he was simply intimidated by everything going on around him, though of course he didn't show his fear openly. At school, it had been easier going when he had people with him he already knew and could help him adjust. Here, it was like the strange and off-putting atmosphere threatened to engulf him. The sounds alone felt disjointed, as the squeaks, squawks and shouts the various species made were not like anything he had ever heard on Earth. His fight-or-flight reflexes were on overdrive, even as the more rational parts of his mind told him that he shouldn't be reacting this way, and that this was something else he just needed to learn to adapt to. He knew these people around him weren't doing anything wrong or malicious, despite being unusual to him, just as he was unusual to them. This was nothing like his arrival in the Pallet Pit, or like the fights he and the others had gotten in, but despite all of that, there was something about the chaos around him that gave him an uncomfortable feeling, and Jack decided that he would need to find a quiet place to sit down and pull himself together before trying to find one of the others. A tentacled student was intertwined with a mantis-like being against one of the walls on the left. Two others of a lizard-looking species were on the ceiling, and Jack had to dodge to avoid the sticky liquid that was dripping down onto the floor, before grabbing a dish of something that looked roughly like a fruit salad from the serving plate of a nearby waitress. "Hi, Jack!" a voice called out as he rounded a corner. Looking around for the owner of the voice, Jack suddenly stiffened and stopped, staring dumbfounded at the figure who had just randomly called out to him and said hi from out of nowhere. Excluding anyone from Earth, it was one of the last people Jack had ever expected to see again. "What?" Jack finally yelled out, after several seconds had passed. It was all he could think to ask at that moment, as he stared at the speaker. Killer Kush waved enthusiastically from a nearby corner. He was sat down, leaning against several cushions at the table, with several undead-looking beings with primarily blue clothing. "Killer Kush?" Jack asked in shock, blinking several times and shaking his head, just in case he was hallucinating. He wasn't. The short, green-skinned, Kermit the Frog-looking alien with twin samurai swords was impossible to mistake. "How the fuck are you even alive?" "What?" Killer Kush replied in genuine confusion, tone completely mellow as he pulled out a fat blunt and stuck it in his mouth, which one of the skeletal beings graciously lit for him. "Hey, thanks, bro." "No problem, homie," the skeleton replied, before idly looking once again in Jack's direction. Jack began, still completely shocked. "You attacked me during a deathball game and I threw you out of a high window. How are you here?" "Huh?" Killer Kush replied in confusion. "I remember meeting you, but I don't remember that happening, bro. Are you recalling things right? Didn't we do a line of rocks and debate the advantages and disadvantages of a central banking authority?" "No, we didn't do anything of the sort," Jack replied, far more confused than threatened. "You attacked me and I threw you out of a window." "Bro!" Killer Kush suddenly perked up. "Didn't you, have a bounty on you or something?" "I did, but not anymore," Jack quickly spoke up, just in case Killer Kush had any ideas. But the bounty hunter hadn't made a move, and was instead just content to lay back and have another puff of his blunt. Turns out it was a bunch of false accounts whose owner had no intention of paying, so we shouldn't have a problem. "Nah, chill. We ain't got no problem, player." The last skeleton next to Killer Kush spoke up. "You're the crazy motherfucker that took out the Pallet Pit. We ain't messing with you or your crib. That diss track was just posed as hating. Nothing personal." "That's good to hear," Jack replied cautiously, not knowing what to make of the somehow alive bounty hunter and his undead companions, and not even having seen any of the diss tracks made by the various local gangs of the city, who said they were coming for his bounty. "What are you doing here anyway, Kush?" "I'm security, bro," Kush replied, taking another hit of his joint. "Clan Barzum liked my resume, so brought me on as hired help." "Same here," the skeleton replied. "Ain't none more gangster than the Crips. Fuck the Bloods." Something crackled as Killer Kush put a hand to his ear. "Huh, I better roll out.
Sounds like some teams are having comms issues. Peace out.
All good, homie, the skeleton replied, as he put away a bag of some pinkish-looking powder. Kush quickly made his exit, and before he realized what he was doing, Jack took the bounty hunter's seat. So, you're an outsider, huh? One of the fleshy undead across the table asked Jack. Never seen one of you before? Yeah, Jack nodded, slightly bemused by the whole conversation. Don't know how I got here. All I can do is survive and try to adapt. Shit, this guy ain't so different than us. Another, smaller skeleton piped up. Yeah, homie, you're right, the larger skeleton agreed, and on seeing Jack's slightly confused expression, decided to explain more. A lot of us sapient undead motherfuckers have no idea who we were or how we came to existence. If we had families before, they tell us to fuck off or try and kill us. And if we were created out of nothing, that's even worse. Damn, Jack agreed. That sucks. Fuck yeah, it sucks fat fucking dick. The ghoulish guy across from him nodded. And not in a bussing way like I seen Malice and Carpel from Class 21OV do. Yeah, it's bad, the last skeleton sighed. But while I've got my homies with me, we have each other's backs. Sure, we only exist thanks to some fucked up woo-woo shit, and many people would destroy us on the spot if they could, but while I exist, I'm gonna make the most of it. Can't make more of us like those blood motherfuckers, and we don't want to run into some creepy-ass necromancer that can wipe away what makes us... us. Especially not whatever the fuck's at Night Whisper Manor. That's the really dangerous place that can spontaneously create undead, right? Jack asked, trying to be cautious, as he didn't know what remarks would cause offense to these unusual undead. Yeah, our homies that came from there are all from the outer districts, the smaller skeleton confirmed. Inner districts got some whack shit going on. None of those motherfuckers are sentient. They got some crunk-ass shit happening there. Like what? Jack asked, curiously. Like how it calls to us, the big skeleton confirmed. Every undead motherfucker we know hears it, constantly beckoning us to make our way there and give ourselves to it, until we flip out and heed the call. Anyone that does isn't seen again. That's why the crypts are tight. Motherfuckers be hating, but we're all we have, and we stop each other heeding the call. All else we got left is making the most out of our shitty-ass existence. I'm sorry to hear that, mate. That sounds rough to have to deal with, Jack replied, truthfully. Though he had fought undead before, they were just feral pawns for a necromancer. Nothing like these guys. These guys were people. Dead, but still people. Nah, homie, don't go feeling sorry for us, the smaller skeleton asked. We ride every day like it's our last and feel the moment, and it ain't all bad. Shit. These rocks Killer Kush has are so good even we can feel a bit of it. He's right, brah, the ghoulish one confirmed to Jack, as he got up to emphasize his words with hand gestures. Universe dealt us a janky hand. We still gotta play with what we got. You know what I'm saying. That's why we're Crips until we're dead for real. We live our life hard and with no regrets. We leave behind legacies future Crips will tell stories of, because that shit never dies unless the Crips do. And the Crips will never die. Damn right, player, the larger skeleton added, as his comlink buzzed. It sucks, but it sucks less when you have your homies with you. Speaking of, Jack grinned, as he heard a familiar sound of panting, as Dante came up beside him to lick his hand, tails wagging excitedly on having found the human. Perfect timing, man. We gotta go, the larger skeleton pointed out, holding his bony hand out low for the dog to sniff. Clan Barza wants us gangsters to check something out. No worries. It was good to meet you. Jack raised his arm to shake the skeleton's hand, but was instead led through 2 soft slaps of the hand, followed by a fist bump. That's the shit. We chips, player, the skeleton replied enthusiastically. You the man, outsider. Bye, Jack replied with a polite smile, not understanding what most of the crypt just said, as they headed off. Nice guys, he commented to Dante, who just looked up at Jack with a curious look. Definitely not what I expected. I think I need to sit down somewhere quiet, though. Woof! Dante agreed, as the dog followed the human down to a quieter part of the complex. So even worse than I had feared. Even I didn't know, Chio thought, as Luvia gave her an update on what had happened with Alora. There is no way she told me the full story, but I can empathize with family giving you more ass pain than a Carexian banquet, the dragon finished.
It's times like these I'm glad I'm a foundling, Sophie admitted with a shrug, but we should probably wait to hear it from her in her own words.
Agreed, and we shouldn't let that get in the way of us enjoying the party, Chio added. We can address it when we all wake up tomorrow, assuming we aren't all hungover. Speaking of enjoying the party, Luvia added with a grin, Val told me there's a buffet in one of the back rooms where a few of our classmates were headed. Maybe we could all meet there. I like these appetizers as much as the next person, but I for one need a full meal. That's a good idea. Maybe we could all meet there, Chio suggested.
Sophie muttered, as she tried to use her comlink. It's weird. Can't contact anyone, but I can see where their last locations are. Nico and Alora are nearby, but Jack's probably gotten lost.
Would you be able to find him for us, Sephi? Luvia asked. The others will probably make their own way there once they hear about it, but he probably wouldn't know.
Sephi scowled at that. Who did she think she was to order her about like she was Red Legion? Luvia could be very haughty and bossy at times to her less close friends, and it sometimes took a few words from Alora to shut her up. Sephi bit back a rude remark and turned away to leave for a nearby tunnel, and having no intention whatsoever of luring Jack to the dragon any time soon. It took a few moments of Chio's raised eyebrows for Luvia to realize her mistake, and mutter a low curse.
Why are you so especially hung up tonight, anyway? Chio asked. The Concourse of Dragons unofficially expects me to at least visibly start the search for suitable mates, Luvia growled. And even if I didn't have that social pressure, I'd be interested in him. You should know it is in the nature of my species, especially res, to pursue what they want. That would be a conversation you would need to have with him, Chio began. But...
She trailed off for a moment, as her senses picked up something unusual on the periphery. Following the sensation, she expanded her astral sight, before her eyes widened.
Chio? Luvia asked, confused. What's wrong?
Svartal slinked down the tunnel to the deepest chamber of the complex, wanting to get away from the loud noise of the party above. He had tried to relax and have fun, as he had promised Svarti, with so much confidence when he presented the idea, but he just couldn't, and that pained him. Everyone else that he had seen so far seemed to blend in so naturally, like it was a theatrical play, and everyone had been given the script except for him. Even getting drunk only alleviated the problem for so long. Spartal was far too paranoid and untrusting of others to let himself be vulnerable for long, and he had discreetly removed the effects magically, every time he felt himself slip mentally. The lowest chamber was a small little area, the tunnel opening up into a cozy refuge, where several others appeared to be taking a break from the revelries above, in booths dotted by the bare walls, speckled with several couples, who apparently needed to find a room. There was a small bar on the right, staffed by a solitary Hodov bartender with a small supply, who looked to Spartal with barely a casual glance. Above him, there was some kind of overhanging balcony that presumably led to the upper levels, which faced the back hall exit, that was sealed with a thick set of iron doors that looked ominous to the Nera. He assumed they must have led to the gloom paths below. But another sight piqued his interest. Anybody else might not have spotted him with his back to the wall, but Svartal knew immediately who it was. Frost. Spartal contemplated this, as he casually sidled over to the bar and ordered some of the fine Hodov ale, taking a sip before ordering another. Jack shot to his feet in a panic and almost drew his gun when Spartal sidled up to his table and settled down opposite him. And then his panic fell to confusion as Spartal used his magic to slowly and carefully slide the other glass of ale he had ordered over to the human. "I'm surprised you're not smothered in your harem, Frost," Spartal quipped, as he sat down and took a sip of his ale, looking down and seeing the beast that had hung around his group last time they met. Dante gave a soft, warning growl at the Nera, but didn't attack. Jack looked up at Spartal, then down at the ale, examining it in suspicion. "If my sleeve ash venom doesn't work on you, I doubt anything I could come up with could poison you,"
Spartaw continued, calmly taking another sip. Besides, this is neutral territory, and I have no particular desire to incur the wrath of Clan Barzum. Jack nodded, not taking his eyes off the mirror as he slowly took a sip. Thank you, the human replied cautiously, searching for some kind of tell that something was amiss. Now why are you here? What do the drow want? I am not here on behalf of House Malkar, Spartaw casually answered as he took another sip. My sister and I were invited to this party, so for once we attended. The Nira gave a sly smile. Besides, House Malkar have other concerns as of late, and I have no intention of being around that mess you've made for them. While I wouldn't be surprised if Isadora losing 2 of her cousins was planned at some point down the line, the loss of an entire platoon of special forces made the High Matron particularly angry. All the Malkars here on High Station Bastila are in a conference call with their elders off-world. I can't imagine there'll be a problem for you while they're under such scrutiny. And you? Jack answered with forced calm. Will you be a problem for me? Who's to say? Spartaw replied, meeting Jack's intense gaze. You no longer have a bounty on you worth pursuing, and the Malkars haven't ordered me to kill you. Yet, Jack pointed out. Or you're lying. Both are possible, Spartaw admitted with a shrug. I suspect Isadora Malkar won't forgive or forget your slights against her. At some point it will escalate to the breaking point, and it is likely that the 2 of us will fight to the death one more time. Whatever the circumstances, I think it will decide things for good. Is that what you want? Jack questioned, looking at Spartaw curiously, and saw that the Nira looked unsure. I don't know, Spartaw admitted. I have less reason to come after you than I did before, but my new duties will almost certainly mean that I will. You could always refuse, Jack pointed out, as he took another gulp of ale, only for Spartaw to snort in amusement. I think not. My sister and I have obtained good, profitable positions with a prominent drow house, and you are indirectly the one to thank for that. Spartaw sipped some more of his ale. Why would I give that up? Is Sparty happy with that? Will she be safe? Jack asked seriously, with raised eyebrows, and raised a placating hand to calm the Nira down, who glared at him with a dark expression. Maybe you belong with an evil family of slavers, but we both know she doesn't. Careful, Frost, Spartaw sneered. I'm just saying, both of us care for her well-being, Jack responded cautiously. I don't know what hell you 2 came from, but nothing good will come of siding with psychos like the drow. You want to know something funny? Spartaw asked before he continued. She thinks we both have a lot in common, and on the surface she may have a point. I think we misread one another when we first met. She says something similar to me, Jack admitted, and I happen to agree with her. That may be, Spartaw acknowledged with another drink of ale, and that is the reason why we are enemies. I do what I do best, as do you. We both fight for something, and we will fight to the death for it. I found out all about you, Frost. You arrived here with nothing, and you wouldn't have lasted long if not for the Church of Astara and your new family. Without them, you're alone with nothing. Really? Jack raised his voice with a hint of anger at how right the Nira was. And what about you? Who would you be without your sister? She's been a saint sticking by you. But if she ever left, you would be as alone as I was. Alone? I doubt it, outsider, a new voice called out, sneering and callous. Both Jack and Dante looked around for the new speaker, but there wasn't anyone nearby, and nobody had approached. Slowly, a form began to materialize on Spartaw's shoulder. Dante growled as the bird of the darkest red Jack had ever seen shimmered into view. So, you are the Death Warder with the power to challenge my master. It spoke with a razor beak, eyeing the human curiously, before jumping off Spartaw's shoulder and pacing up to the end of the table to look at Dante. And look at this. One of Astara's favorite rodents, as my master suspected. Dante growled at the beast, and gave the bird a threatening bark, hair standing on end with static electricity. I fear not thy lightning, Astarte, the bird squawked back at the dog, as his feathers started glowing a brighter shade of crimson. Caro. Spartawl put a hand out to stop his familiar. You will restrain yourself. We are to abide by our agreement to Clan Barzum. As you wish, my master, the bird nodded, and returned to his position, aboard Spartawl's shoulder. You too, Dante, Jack gently warned, scratching the dog behind the ears, until Jack felt him stiffen and walk away, which was rather unlike him. Jack just shrugged it off as the dog calming down, and let him wander around the chamber. You're familiar, I assume? He asked. Spartawl simply nodded. Under different circumstances we may have been friends, instead of enemies. The Nera sipped his ale, as Jack did his. Both were nearly done with their drinks. But I've got to do what I must, as must you. If the Malkars order me to come for your group, I might not necessarily relish in it, as I did last time. But if it's between putting you down, or everything I have worked and clawed my way towards my entire life, I will not hesitate to do what needs to be done. Honing my magic and pushing my limits is all I have. There is a flip side to that, Jack pointed out. If you put my friends in danger, and I need to take you down, I'll do it, whatever it takes, even if I go down with you. I won't feel good about it after talking with you face to face, but I won't hesitate. Until that day comes. Spartawl lifted his glass and finished the rest of his ale, Jack doing the same. Suddenly, Spartawl looked confused as he looked at something to the side. What is your beast doing? Dante was staring blankly ahead at the thick metal doors at the end of the room, emitting a worried growl. What's wrong, Dante? Jack asked, as he got up and walked over to him, but the dog didn't look his way until Jack petted him, turning around and giving the human a frightened look. Master, something strange is happening in the astral, Caro whispered to his master. What is it? Spartawl asked, before Dante started barking with a loud woof! It was an unusual kind of bark, much louder than Jack would have thought capable of an animal Dante's size, but he kept barking with mechanical regularity. The lights in the room blared brighter, and Jack suddenly became aware that the music echoing throughout the complex had ceased. It was a flood of sound, a solid cascade that blared through the minds of all present, reminding him of some kind of alarm. Spartawl and Jack both drew their weapons simultaneously, as the human yelled, "Everybody out!" Jack was barely able to finish his sentence and leap into cover, before an explosion blasted the doors wide open.